Episode 26, The Language of Loss. Elena's fingers traced the new pattern in her notebook, comparing it to the dozens of sequences she'd documented over the past 4 months. 4 pulses, pause, 8 pulses, pause, 3 pulses, pause, 2 pulses. The corruption patterns had been repeating this sequence every few hours since last night, and she still couldn't decipher it. "What are you trying to tell me?" she whispered, her breath forming frost in the cold air of the Grand Hall. The temperature had dropped another degree overnight. 71 degrees now, measured precisely by her instruments. Every degree mattered. Every change meant something. The patterns shifted under her observation, flowing through the familiar sequence again. 4, 8, 3, 2. She'd tried interpreting it as numbers, as concepts, as combinations of their established vocabulary. Nothing fit. Footsteps echoed behind her. Elena didn't turn, recognizing Lyanna's distinctive gait, quick and purposeful, the walk of someone who'd spent 4 months learning to navigate the Grand Hall's marble floors without slipping on the perpetual frost that surrounded her brother. "You're here early," Elena said, glancing at the pre-dawn darkness visible through the reconstructed windows. "Couldn't sleep." Lyanna set down her satchel, pulling out the anatomy text she'd been reading to Cassian. At 14, she looked older than her years, eyes shadowed with knowledge no child should carry. "He was in my dreams again. The patterns. I keep seeing them even when I'm not here." Elena understood. She saw the patterns everywhere now, in frost on windows, in the grain of wood, in the way light scattered through crystal. The corruption had its own language, and she was becoming fluent in it. "There's a new sequence," Elena said, showing Lyanna the notebook. "Started last night, 4832. I can't figure out what it means." Lyanna studied the notation, her lips moving silently as she counted. Then her expression shifted, something between recognition and pain. 4 and 8, 12. 3 plus 2 is 5. 12 and 5. "December 5th, Elena breathed. "That's my birthday." Lyanna's voice cracked. "I turn 15 in 3 days. He remembers." The corruption patterns pulsed, responding to Lyanna's voice with a cascade of movement. 3 pulses, pause, 2 pulses. Their established pattern for "I hear you, I remember." Then the new sequence again, 4, 8, 3, 2. Elena felt her throat tighten. 4 months of vigil, and Cassian was using their rudimentary language to tell his sister he remembered her birthday. The consciousness merged with 73 others, slowly losing details like the taste of wine and smell of rain, still held on to this. "He's fighting so hard," Lyanna whispered, pressing her palm against the corruption. The dark surface felt like ice, but she didn't pull away. "To stay himself, to remember us." "He is," Elena confirmed, documenting the interaction. "The patterns are becoming more complex, more organized. It's not what happened with the original sealing." Lyanna looked up sharply. "Is that good or bad? I don't know yet." Elena chose honesty over comfort. "Archmage Verena thinks it means the 74 are forming a unified collective consciousness instead of fragmenting. But we don't know if that will help him last 3 centuries or—" She didn't finish. They both knew the alternative. The Grand Hall's doors opened, admitting Archmage Verena herself. The older woman moved carefully, still recovering from injuries sustained during the sealing 4 months ago. Her left arm remained in a modified brace, and she leaned heavily on an ornate walking stick. "Elena, Lyanna," Verena's greeting was warm despite the early hour. "I thought I might find you both here." "Is something wrong?" Elena asked, immediately alert. Verena rarely came to the Grand Hall. She trusted Elena's vigil and knew her presence might be seen as oversight rather than support. "Not wrong, exactly." Verena approached Cassian's frozen form, studying the corruption patterns with the analytical gaze of someone who'd spent 60 years mastering magical theory. "But concerning. The Council received another message from the Eastern Reach last night." Elena's stomach tightened. 3 weeks ago, she'd testified before the Council about the Eastern Reach's crisis, their failing wards, their desperate request for knowledge about forbidden magic. The Council had voted to send conventional aid, but refused to share what Cassian had done. "They're asking again," Elena guessed. "Begging, actually." Verena's expression was grim. "Their conventional reinforcement failed. They've lost 2 cities, thousands dead. Their ambassador is requesting an emergency session." Lyanna looked between them, confusion evident. "Why would they ask us? We already said no. Because they're dying, Elena said quietly, and they know we have knowledge that might save them. But you said, Lyanna gestured at Cassian, you said the price was too high, that they shouldn't do what he did. I did say that. Elena met the girl's eyes. And I still believe it. But Ambassador Wintermere is going to argue that her people deserve the same chance to make that choice that we had. Verena nodded. The emergency session is this afternoon. King Aldrich wants you there, Elena. Your testimony carries weight. You're the keeper, the one who sees the price every day. I'll be there, Elena promised. But her mind was already racing ahead, anticipating arguments and counter-arguments. How did you explain to desperate people that the solution that saved you would destroy them? That the cost wasn't just the moment of sacrifice, but 3 centuries of slow dissolution? The corruption patterns shifted again, and Elena's attention snapped back to Cassian. The sequences were changing. Not the birthday pattern, but something new. 6 pulses, pause, 4 pulses, pause, 7 pulses. 6 meant the Void Weaver stirring. 4 meant warning or distress. 7 meant... Elena's blood ran cold. 7 pulses meant recognition of a specific person. But which person? What is it? Verena asked, seeing Elena's expression. He's warning us about someone. Elena documented the pattern frantically. 647. The Void Weaver is stirring. There's danger, and it's connected to someone specific. Someone here? Lyanna looked around the empty Grand Hall nervously. Or someone coming. Elena pulled out her monitoring equipment, checking the ceiling's stability. The readings showed the same gradual degradation they'd been tracking. 0.03% loss per week, accelerating slowly. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would trigger an immediate warning. Unless Cassian could sense something the instruments couldn't. The Eastern Reach, Verena said slowly. Elena, when you testified 3 weeks ago, you mentioned that their failing wards could destabilize our ceiling through the ley line network. Senior researcher Amara confirmed it, Elena agreed. Continental magical systems are interconnected. If the Eastern Reach collapses completely, it could cascade here. Verena's face had gone pale. Accelerating the degradation, reducing our 3-century timeline to decades or less. The corruption patterns pulsed urgently. 647, 647. He knows, Elena breathed. Somehow, he knows what's happening in the Eastern Reach. The merged consciousness. It's not just the 74. It's the ceiling itself. He is the prison, and he can feel when the foundations shake. Lyanna pressed both palms against the corruption now, tears streaming down her face. Cassian, what do we do? How do we help them without making them suffer like you? The patterns steadied into their familiar rhythm. 3 pulses, pause, 2 pulses. I hear you. I remember. Then something new. 5 pulses, pause, 5 pulses, pause, 5 pulses. Elena had never seen this pattern before. She documented it carefully, then looked at Verena. 5 repeated 3 times. That's not in our vocabulary yet. Balance, Verena suggested. Or choice. 5 is the number of crossroads in magical theory, the point where paths diverge. He's telling us there's a choice to make, Elena translated. And the choice matters. The emergency council session that afternoon was packed. Every seat filled, magisters standing along the walls, the air thick with tension and competing magics. Ambassador Celeste Wintermere stood at the petitioner's circle, her ice-blonde hair disheveled, her formal robes stained with travel dust. She looked like someone who'd ridden 3 days without stopping. Because she had. 2 more cities fell yesterday, Wintermere said without preamble. Frostholm and Winterkeep, 30,000 people. The shadow spawn are pouring through our failing wards like water through a sieve, and conventional magic isn't stopping them. King Aldrich sat forward on his throne, guilt and conflict warring in his expression. Ambassador, we've sent magisters, resources, everything we can. Everything except the truth. Wintermere's voice cracked. You know what worked here. You know what stopped your shadow spawn, sealed your Void Weaver, and you're letting my people die rather than share that knowledge. Magister Greymark rose, his stocky frame radiating disapproval. The knowledge you seek is forbidden for good reason, Ambassador. The cost. I know the cost! Wintermere's shout echoed through the chamber. I've seen your Grand Hall. I've seen the young man frozen there. But at least your people are alive to remember him. My people are dying right now, and their deaths will be meaningless because we never had the chance to make the choice he made. The council erupted in argument. Some magisters supported sharing the knowledge, practical necessity outweighing old prohibitions. Others insisted that spreading forbidden magic would doom multiple kingdoms, not save them. Elena sat in her designated seat as keeper, silent and observing, waiting for the moment when her testimony would matter most. That moment came when King Aldrich raised his hand for silence. "Keeper Elena, you maintain the vigil over our warden. You see the price he pays every day. What counsel do you offer?" Elena rose slowly, aware of every eye in the chamber turning toward her. She was 22 years old, common-born, with no political training or diplomatic experience, but she was the keeper of the 74, and that title carried weight. "This morning," she began, "Cassian communicated a warning through the corruption patterns. He sensed disturbance in the ceiling, instability that our instruments haven't detected yet. The merged consciousness that forms the Voidweaver's prison is aware of what's happening in the Eastern Reach." She had their attention now. Complete silence. "If the Eastern Reach falls," Elena continued, "the cascade through the ley line network will destabilize our ceiling. Our 3-century timeline could shrink to decades. Everything Cassian sacrificed for, everything the 74 hold back, could unravel because we let another kingdom collapse." Wintermere's expression shifted from desperate anger to cautious hope. "Then you'll share the knowledge? Help us replicate what you did?" "No," Elena's voice was firm, "because that's not the only choice." She turned to address the full council. 3 weeks ago, I argued that the Eastern Reach should exhaust conventional options before considering desperate measures. I stand by that, but I was thinking like a keeper, not like a kingdom. The question isn't whether to share forbidden knowledge, it's whether to share the burden. King Aldrich frowned. "Explain." "The Eastern Reach's failing wards threaten our ceiling," Elena said. "Which means their crisis is our crisis. Not because we're charitable, but because we're interconnected. If they need something beyond conventional magic to survive, then we need them to survive." She took a breath, committing to the path. "I propose we send not just magisters and resources, but me. As keeper, I understand what Cassian did, not just the magic, but the cost. If the Eastern Reach reaches the point where desperate measures are truly necessary, I can guide them. Ensure they understand what they're choosing. Make certain that if they walk that path, they do it with full knowledge and proper preparation." No. The objection came from an unexpected source, High Inquisitor Mordain, standing near the king's dais. "The keeper cannot leave the Grand Hall, the vigil." "The vigil is maintained by presence and documentation," Elena interrupted, meeting Mordain's eyes. "Seraphina Thornweave's journals show she traveled, married, had children, all while maintaining the vigil. The 74 don't need me physically present every moment. They need me to preserve their memories, continue research into reaching them, and ensure the truth isn't forgotten." She turned back to Wintermere. "I can't promise to teach your mages forbidden magic, but I can promise to witness your crisis, counsel your leadership, and if the moment comes when there's truly no other choice, if you face the same impossible decision we faced, I'll help you understand what you're choosing." The chamber erupted again, but Elena remained standing, waiting for the king's decision. Aldrich studied her for a long moment, then looked at Verena. "Archmage?" "The keeper's reasoning is sound," Verena said carefully. "And her presence would serve multiple purposes, diplomatic, practical, and ethical. She represents both the solution and its cost." "High Inquisitor?" Aldrich asked. Mordain's jaw worked, conflict evident in his scarred face. "Finally, the vigil is about preserving truth and memory, not physical presence. If the keeper believes she can maintain her duties while serving the kingdom's broader interests, I won't oppose it." Aldrich nodded slowly. "Then it's decided. Keeper Elena will accompany Ambassador Wintermere to the Eastern Reach as advisor and witness. She will provide counsel on all conventional approaches and, if necessary, guidance on extraordinary measures. But the final decision remains with the Eastern Reach's leadership." He stood, ending the session. "May we all be spared the necessity of desperate choices." Elena returned to the Grand Hall as sunset painted the frost-covered windows gold and crimson. Lyanna waited there, having spent the day reading to her brother. "You're leaving," Lyanna said. "Not a question." "For a few weeks. maybe a month. Elena knelt beside her monitoring equipment, checking the readings one final time before departure. I need you to maintain the vigil while I'm gone. Lyanna's eyes widened. Me? But I'm not. I don't know. You know the pattern language as well as I do, Elena said gently. You've been documenting responses in your own notebook, and Cassian trusts you. He'll communicate with you. She handed Lyanna a leather-bound journal, a new one, pages blank and waiting. Document everything, every pattern, every change in temperature or resonance. If anything concerning happens, send for Verena or Mordain immediately. But I don't think it will. The ceiling is stable for now. You're scared, Lyanna observed. Elena couldn't deny it. I'm terrified. That I'll get there and find they're already lost. That I'll have to watch another mage make the choice Cassian made. That I'll fail to find a better way. The corruption patterns pulsed. 3-2, I remember. Then the 5-pulse sequence. 5-5-5. Choice. The choice matters. Elena pressed her palm against the corruption, feeling the impossible cold. I know. I'll try to find a better way. I promise. She spent the evening preparing for departure, packing research notes and Seraphina's journals. Ambassador Wintermere had arranged fast horses and would ride at dawn. Every hour mattered when cities were falling. Just before midnight, Elena returned to the Grand Hall one final time. Lyanna had gone home, leaving the space in darkness except for the faint luminescence of the corruption patterns. Elena knelt in her usual spot, opening her notebook to document the day's patterns, but her hand hesitated over the page. Seraphina found a way, she whispered to Cassian, a theoretical technique to free you and the others, but it required someone else to take your place, to corrupt themselves and become the prison. She chose not to use it, chose to let you stay imprisoned rather than trade one sacrifice for another. The patterns rippled, attentive. I don't know if she was right, Elena continued. Part of me wants to learn the technique, master it, give you back your life even if it costs me mine. But the other part remembers what you told me through the patterns, that the choice matters, that there has to be a better way than endless cycles of sacrifice. She closed the notebook. I'm going to the Eastern Reach to try to find that better way, to see if there's an answer that doesn't require someone to burn themselves out holding back the darkness. If I fail, if they have to make your choice, I'll help them do it right. Help them understand the price and prepare for 3 centuries of holding on. The corruption patterns shifted through multiple sequences. 3-2, I remember, 5-5-5, choice, and then something new. 9 pulses, pause, 9 pulses. Elena had never seen 9 before. She documented it carefully, then whispered, I don't know that one yet, but I will learn it. When I come back, we'll expand our vocabulary. We'll find ways to have real conversations, not just these fragments. 3-2 again. Then the patterns steadied into their resting rhythm. Elena gathered her things and walked toward the doors, then paused for one last look back. Cassian stood frozen at the convergence point. Dark corruption spreading from his hands like wings. 73 souls merged with his consciousness to form the prison that held back annihilation. He looked like a statue, like a monument, like something already dead. But the patterns pulsed steady and strong, and Elena knew better. He was alive, fighting, remembering. And somewhere in the Eastern Reach, other mages were facing the same impossible choice he'd faced 4 months ago. Elena pulled her cloak tight against the cold and walked into the pre-dawn darkness, carrying Seraphina's journals and her own desperate hope that this time, maybe, they could find a better answer than sacrifice. Behind her, the corruption patterns pulsed one final sequence, 9-9. She would learn what it meant. She would learn all of it. Because 57 years wasn't enough time to save someone who'd given everything. But maybe, just maybe, it was enough time to find a way that didn't require anyone else to give everything at all.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.